George let us know that he was able to pass the NES Elementary Subjects exam using our study guides. Our videos, practice questions, and user-friendly feel really set us apart. My name is Terry, and I help teachers pass the certification exams at 240. And today, I'm going to help you. Now, this video is going to prepare you for Subtest 1 of the NES Elementary Education exam, which is code 102. This video is going to cover 3 things: what's on the test and how to study it, the most likely concepts that will appear on the test, and we're going to go through a few practice questions. The NES Elementary Education Multiple Subjects exam is split into 2 subtests. Subtest 1 covers reading and language arts and social studies. Subtest 2 includes mathematics, science, and the arts, health, and fitness. Each contains about 75 multiple choice questions, but in this video, we're going to focus on Subtest 1. So let's get to it. Now, as we saw before, this test is made up of 2 content domains: reading and English language arts and social studies. Reading and English language arts make up approximately 62% of the exam, and social studies counts for around 38%. Each one has competencies nestled under it. Now, these competencies provide more information about what will be tested for each domain. Now, believe me, even after reading through an entire competency, you'll still want to know more information about the topic. Lucky for you, that's exactly why I'm here. We'll go over a key concept for each competency, and this is some stuff that you're really going to need to know for your exam. We'll start with the biggest domain, reading and English language arts. The first competency is language development and emergent literacy. This competency covers how young students build oral language skills, as well as concepts of print and the alphabetic principle. One of the most important things to know is the difference between phonological and phonemic awareness. Phonemic awareness is essentially a subcategory of phonological awareness. Phonological awareness encompasses the ability to recognize individual phonemes, syllables, and words. Phonemic awareness is the ability to hear and use individual units of sound or phonemes. Phonological and phonemic awareness are strong predictors of reading success. Students need explicit, direct instruction to develop these skills. So you'll probably be asked about some strategies you can use to teach phonological and phonemic awareness skills. Need some ideas? The 240 study guide has plenty, and luckily for you, I'm going to show you one. L. Conan boxes. Now, you may have heard these called sound boxes as well, but you can use these for all types of things. For phonemic awareness, they can be used for isolating and segmenting phonemes. As students say the word, they can move a token into the box for each sound they hear. Once students are able to work with sounds and words, they're ready to connect those sounds to their symbols. Which brings us to our second competency. Competency 2 is phonics, word analysis, spelling, and fluency. There is a lot wrapped up into this competency, including all the strategies and skills students use to decode and encode words on their own when reading and writing. For now, I'm going to focus on the fluency part. Reading fluency is measured by 3 primary criteria: accuracy, which is the reader's ability to correctly pronounce words; prosody, or the ability to convey expression; and speed, the pace at which the reader reads the text. And you also need to know some strategies for supporting fluent reading. The right methods will depend on the component of fluency a student is struggling with, but in general, it's important to make sure they're reading at their current level, and that they have lots of opportunities to read out loud. One of the best things teachers can do to help students develop fluency is model fluent reading. When reading to a class, use an appropriate rate and expression in your voice. It is also powerful to read a snippet without fluency, such as reading too fast or slow in a robotic voice, to help students fully hear the difference between fluent and non-fluent reading. So let's give it a try. Yes, said Sarah. Only 2 more days until my birthday. Or, yes, said Sarah. Only 2 more days until my birthday. Okay, students, which one of those sounded more fluent? The third competency in Domain 1 is comprehension and vocabulary. This covers the different kinds of comprehension and strategies for promoting students' comprehension skills. It also includes techniques for developing students' vocabulary, which is where we're going to focus in this video. Vocabulary development refers to students' abilities to effectively know and use words in their listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Effective vocabulary development promotes comprehension and overall reading success. Often, vocabulary is learned indirectly, but sometimes you need to teach new words directly. One way to do this is to pre-teach unfamiliar vocabulary from a text before asking students to read it. Teachers should provide ways to actively engage students with their new vocabulary and help them understand the relationships between words. A great way to do this is by using semantic maps or word webs, like this one, comparing the homophones aisle and aisle. You can use semantic maps to visually display the meaning-based connections between a word or phrase and a set of related words or concepts. You'll need to know the different kinds of semantic relationships. Now, if you need to brush up on any of the differences between homonyms, homographs, or homophones, we've got you covered in our 240 study guide. Ready for the next competency? Let's jump in. The fourth competency, types of text, covers the characteristics of literary genres as well as the features of types of text such as persuasive. Basically, you need to be able to thoroughly understand and analyze these texts before you can teach them to your students. Part of analyzing text across genres is understanding different types of figurative language and how they are used. There's a ton of different types of figurative language that you'll need to know for your exam, but for now, let's zoom in on two of those. First, symbolism. Symbolism is when an object stands for an idea or larger meaning. It's usually used numerous times throughout a piece of literature. Examples will be a dove standing for peace or a snake symbolizing evil. The next one I'll point out is metaphor. That's when an author compares an object or action to something else when it's not literally applicable. Like, life is a roller coaster, or my dad is a sturdy oak, or this video is a lifesaver and Terry is an angel. And remember, a metaphor is a direct comparison, while a simile is a comparison that uses like or as. So those are just two examples of figurative language that might come up on your exam. To review all the others on the list, be sure to check out the 240 study guide. Just one competency left in Domain 1. Let's get to it. In the written and oral communication competency, you'll need to know the stages of the writing process, modes of communication, and proper conventions. I'm going to give you some tips on conventions because they're likely to come up on your test and they can be pretty tricky. Conventions are necessary for writing and speaking to be clear and understandable. They include grammar, spelling, capitalization, and punctuation. A big one to know is subject-verb agreement. Present tense verbs should match their subjects in number. Singular subjects use one form of the verb, while plural subjects use another. This can be especially tricky for students when indefinite pronouns are the subject of a sentence. For example, everyone, an indefinite pronoun, sounds like it would be plural because multiple people are implied, but it is actually defined as a singular word and would take a singular verb. On your exam, you might be asked to identify an error in subject-verb agreement in a given sentence. That's it. We finished Domain 1. High five. Now you're ready for Domain 2. So let's shift gears from language arts to social studies. The first competency in the social studies domain covers government and economics. Whoa, those are definitely two big important pieces of the social studies pie. Now, while I can't cover every concept of government and economics, I'm going to zoom in on one that's going to be essential for you to know for your exam. And remember, if you want even more, subscribe to the 240 study guides. We'll cover all you need to know for government and economics, plus anything else you need to know to be confident for your exam. But right now, let's get into the structure and function of the federal government. I have just a thing to show you. Let's take a sneak peek inside our study guide.
Articles 1, 2, and 3 focus on establishing and separating power in the government. By explicitly separating the government into three branches, the Constitution is able to keep any one branch or person in a branch from becoming too powerful. Let's discuss these two concepts more. In order to protect from corruption and a dangerous concentration of power, the Constitution separates the various powers of government into three distinct branches. The legislative branch makes laws, the executive branch enforces laws, and the judicial branch interprets the meaning of laws. This describes the separation of powers. To further protect against tyranny, each branch has the power to limit the power of the other two branches. For example, the judicial branch can check the legislative branch by declaring laws they pass as unconstitutional. This limiting is known as checks and balances.
Now that preview was just a tip of the iceberg. We're so confident in our study guides, we offer a money-back guarantee. Now let's slide over and see what the next competency is all about. Competency 7 covers US and world history. You'll need to know about significant eras and people throughout history, as well as social and political development, in addition to the processes that have shaped the patterns of human population. Characteristics of past civilizations will come up on your exam too. So let's touch on the Fertile Crescent. Many of the most notable ancient civilizations developed in the Fertile Crescent. This is the area extending from the Persian Gulf to the southern coast of the Mediterranean Sea, and it continues from the southern coast of the Mediterranean around to the northern Nile River. This region included the Nile, Tigris, and Euphrates rivers, which provided water and generated fertile soil. Because the region was so fertile, it was conducive to agriculture. Therefore, societies were able to shift from hunter-gatherer to sedentary communities. The Fertile Crescent is considered the cradle of civilization because it was the birthplace of agriculture, urbanization, writing, trade, science, history, and organized religion. The Fertile Crescent includes the Mesopotamia region and ancient Egypt. Civilizations in the Fertile Crescent contributed to the world culture and were responsible for the development of Western civilization. Examples are Egyptians, Sumerians, Babylonians, Assyrians, and Phoenicians. We've got plenty more where that came from in our study guides. But right now, let's dive into our last competency. Competency 8 is all about geography and inquiry. This covers human and physical geography as well as working with visual tools such as charts and maps. So let's talk about maps right now. Both maps and globes use a compass rose, which indicates the 4 cardinal directions north, south, east, and west to orient the viewer. Maps and globes also use legends or keys to explain the symbols found on the map or globe. The legend often contains the scale, which explains the relationship between drawn distance and the distance in real life. If you need to interpret a map, pay careful attention to any scale or legend provided. We'll have some practice with this in just a bit because it's question time. Let's start back at the beginning with Domain 1, which is Reading and English Language Arts. Now let's look at a question about language development and emergent literacy. Which of the following students is demonstrating phonemic awareness? A student who can identify the number of words in a sentence that is read aloud, a student who can listen to the word sit read aloud and identify the first soundists, a student who recognizes that happiness contains 3 syllables, or a student who is asked to name a rhyming word for sweep and says heap. This is the correct answer. The feedback feature in the 240 study guide tells us that phonemic awareness is the ability to identify individual sounds in a word, like knowing sit begins with the sound s. All other choices would fall under phonological awareness. Alright, let's try a question about fluency. Which of the following activities will best support students' work to improve their reading prosody? Participating in choral reading, reading independently, performing time reading with a partner, participating in frequent formal reading fluency assessments. The right answer is choral reading, because the students will hear fluency modeled by the teacher and also receive the benefits of both rereading a text and reading aloud. Alright, for the next one, let's check out what one of those vocabulary questions might look like. Miss Ader reads a book aloud to her students. She introduces unfamiliar words during the reading and wants to promote the students' vocabulary development after the reading. Which of the following activities will best support Miss Ader's goal? Write the unfamiliar words on the board and have students use a dictionary to define the words. Have students draw a picture that illustrates the definitions of unfamiliar words. Reward students who use the words in class. Have the students read the story silently and write down any words that are unfamiliar. This is the right answer because it allows the students to think of a word in various contexts and scaffold the word into their existing vocabulary. Now for the next course, I will be serving types of text with the side of figurative language. Bon appetit. Which of the following is an example of a hyperbole? Now I know hyperbole wasn't one of the terms on the list earlier, but let's still give it our best shot. The sun smiled down on us as we walked to school. The test tomorrow hung over me like a black cloud. The turtle swam silently and slowly through the water. The line for the sail was 2 miles long. Now I'm gonna go with A. That may be a mistake. The question feedback feature in the 240 app showed me that that one's actually an example of personification. This is actually the correct answer. Hyperbole is exaggeration. Remember when I said I might have a question about subject-verb agreement? Well, here it is. Which of the following sentences is grammatically correct? Each one of the kids brought a lunch to the field trip yesterday. Jasmine, Taylor, Mason, Thomas on the field trip tomorrow. 2 or more kids brings a lunch for the field trip tomorrow. The teacher asks for the kids to bring lunches for the field trip. Did you see which one has a subject and verb that are used in agreement? Yep, it's this one. Domain 1, done. Let's keep it moving on to domain 2. Now we got a preview earlier of types of information you'll need to know to answer government questions, but let's take a look at how economics will come up on the test. In economics, the need to make choices arises due to opportunity costs, scarcity, producers, or consumers. Scarcity is the correct answer. If goods were not scarce, prices would be very low and we'd be able to buy them all. But since they are, consumers and producers need to make choices on how they spend their money. Let's look at one about history. We'll stick with that ancient civilization theme that we touched on earlier. Which of the following contributed to the Egyptian civilization's comparative success during the Bronze Age? This is the one we want. Consistent, predictable access to water helped ensure adequate food for Egyptians. A social studies exam pro tip: water is a big deal. All right, one more. Remember when I told you we'd practice answering a question about a map? That time is here. What amount of beach in kilometers does not have a reef? Notice that this map has a scale included. The perimeter of the island has a blue line around it labeled reef, except for the left side near Alofi. This region is about the same length of the scale marker, which is 6 kilometers. So a 6 kilometer long stretch of beach near Alofi has no reef. And that's it. We've had a practice questions for every competency on the exam. Congrats on finishing the video. If you liked it, give us a like. There's still plenty more to learn. 240 has helped thousands of teachers pass their certification exams, and we want to help you add to that number. So subscribe to the 240 study guides. They have hours of video so you can watch or listen while doing your chores. It's test aligned so you know precisely what you need to study, and it has hundreds of practice questions so you can be sure that you're ready. And best of all, it has a money-back guarantee. So click the link below right now and get started.